What's up guys, welcome to Next Level Health and Fitness, and it's your boy again, Tapiwa Zimamba, also known as the Fitness Doctor. I should just have a dramatic entrance for this one, where I go, also known as the Fitness Doctor. And today guys, we're talking about this silent killer called hypertension, and most people know it as high blood pressure, or EPP, like blood pressure. So what exactly is hypertension? For the longest time, my mom had high blood pressure and would go to the hospital. They would plug some things into her arm, put some cuffs, and next thing you just see numbers, and I did not understand. And until I started studying into this. And today I want to explain what high blood pressure is, or hypertension is, and how it can be dealt with. So first of all, number one, high blood pressure is the amount of pressure the blood is pumped into the vessels. Like I want you to imagine this is your heart. Your heart has got two ventricles. It's got the left and the right ventricle. And the left is the one that's the strongest, and it's the one that pumps blood out of the heart and to the several body parts. So what happens is that it pumps this blood using vessels, like basically the aorta. So now what happens is that the amount of pressure that it pumps that blood, if it pumps at a normal pace, that's normal blood pressure. But if it pumps that blood at very high pressures, like it damages the walls of the vessels. Like, so you'll notice that over time, damaged vessels, like it will damage your vessels in your eyes, in your arms, like because vessels run all over our body. So over time, if that blood is constantly pumped at a very high pressure, like it will damage vessels in your brain and everywhere else. This is why it's called the silent killer, because it will kill you without knowing, because constantly it's damaging your vessels because of the pressure at which your heart is pumping the blood all over your body. So we're going to talk about those numbers, those fancy numbers, like you see on that machine. Like, so I'm going to show this machine, and I'm going to show you the top number and the bottom number. The top number is called the systolic, and the bottom number is called the diastolic. So the top number is basically showing the amount at the highest pressure. Then the bottom number is showing at a rested pressure. So basically, this is how they want to check your blood pressure. And I'm going to tell you the amounts that are normal blood pressure, stage 1, stage 2, and extreme cases of high blood pressure. People just call it the blood pressure curve. So what they do is they tie this blood pressure cuff on your arm. Usually it's the left arm. So they tie it on your arm. Then they connect a branch of your artery. They find a branch of your artery and they pump with so much air. Then that first beat, like there's that first beat that they get. That's the systolic measurement. Then the one they get when it's rested is the diastolic. So these are measured in millimeters of mercury. So it will be written mm. I'm going to talk about some specific ways or some things that you should check out for if you're measuring yourself with your own blood pressure curve at home, because most of us now have these at home and you just want to check what your blood pressure is on, and sometimes it can give inaccurate readings because of the following things. Number one, your cuff can be too small. Don't get a cuff that's too small, because it will alter your measurements. It can end up giving you a very high reading and make you think that you've got a very high blood pressure, but you probably don't even have your blood pressure that high. We're going to go to number two. Do not put your cuff on top of clothes. It needs to be directly on your skin. That affects that also. Number three, have your back on the wall and your feet on the ground. 4, make sure you haven't had caffeine or smoked within 30 minutes of measurement, because sometimes this caffeine can affect your blood reading, and even the smoking can also affect your blood pressure. Number 5, make sure you have been rested. Make sure at least your reading is taken at least 5 minutes after you get to the place, or 5 minutes after resting. Don't take it soon after doing something that has exercise, or you had a lot of activity. Make sure you're relaxed and calm. This will give more accurate measurements. We're going to number 6. Make sure you're not pressed, because sometimes being pressed can end up spiking your blood pressure, because like you're almost like in a panic state, which will lead to number 7. Make sure your emotions are steady. you're not rushing things, you're not angry, and you're not having some tantrum. So these are some things to consider before you measure your blood pressure for better, accurate measurements. So please watch out for these, especially if you've got a high blood pressure machine at home. Right, so now we've talked about how to measure. So what are the problems with high blood pressure? Number one, it can raise the risk of a stroke. The moment your heart is not functioning proper and not pumping blood properly, this is why they call it the silent killer, because I don't know if you've noticed, someone who dies from a stroke, they'll be looking proper that very day. Next thing you'll notice, late in the evening, their organs just freeze. So be very careful. Like, stroke is a thing that could be caused by high. Number two, since it's a thing of the heart, you can end up suffering from heart disease. This one is very serious. So make sure you get your blood pressure checked and you're not suffering from these things. Number three, you can even start suffering from kidney disease, because at the same time, your heart is pumping blood to your organs. So sometimes it can end up pumping too much that it ruptures the cells of the kidneys. So be very careful about that. High blood pressure is a silent killer, guys. Take this very seriously. And I've noticed a lot of people have been suffering from it lately. This is why I decided to talk about this. All right, so now I'm going to talk about those systolic and diastolic measurements. So what is a normal blood pressure? A normal blood pressure is 120 millimeters over 80 millimeters of mercury. Then what could we call an elevated? I'm going to put up a chart, and this is going to show you whether your blood pressure is normal or it's abnormal. So a normal one is 120 millimeters over 80 millimeters of mercury. So an elevated one will be between 120 and 129 millimeters over 80 millimeters. Then when we now start talking about high blood pressure, we're talking about the systolic number being between 130 and 139 millimeters, and the diastolic number being between 80 and 89 millimeters of mercury. This is also called stage 1, where they start saying this is stage 1 of high blood pressure. So just watch these numbers. Like, we're going to look at stage 2. So stage 2 is when the number is greater than or equal to 140 millimeters of mercury over 90 millimeters of mercury. So guys, this is the chart basically of how to measure your blood pressure and see if it's in the normal or in the dangerous zone. So we're going to talk about how to treat it. Like, you know, they call me the fitness doctor, and I'll never say anything without fitness inside. So number one, exercise. Exercise is going to regulate your blood. It's going to regulate your heart, especially workouts like cardio, because they're dealing a lot with your heart. So these are going to help you control your blood pressure. So take exercise seriously. It's going to take your blood pressure to the next level. So number two, we're going to talk about food. Food is very important on this one. The last time I talked about sodium, salty stuff. This also spikes your blood pressure. So be very careful of sodium or salt in your food. So be very careful of this and take your food serious. It's actually a diet they suggest for blood pressure patients, which is called the DASH diet, which has a lot of nuts, a lot of whole grain food, a lot of these things that will help regulate your blood pressure. So take this serious. So number three is medication. There's different types of medication, and I don't know, your doctor will suggest that for you. So there are things like ACE inhibitors, there are beta inhibitors, there are diuretics, there are a lot of things that can be used as medication. But usually, sometimes 90% of the chances are reduced by the first two that I talked about, which is exercise and your food. So guys, this is a good reason to take your fitness life very seriously, because it will avoid you from getting things like high blood pressure. Because high blood pressure, you don't want to suffer from things like these. These things are silent killers. So take your food seriously, take your exercise life seriously, and take your health to the next level. And I'm here to help you take your health to the next level. And don't forget, guys, we've come to the end of this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to your friends and family if you think you benefited from it. So this was all about high blood pressure, aka hypertension. So guys, enjoy yourselves, and always remember, another day, another opportunity to level up. Shout out.